Hi, I'm Hansi Herzog. Welcome to Co-Create, the Global Co-Creation Challenge. Our vision is to unite the world community so we're able to co-create a good life for all. And welcome to today's network talk. Today I have here with me Robert Schram, who will speak about the WorldSummit Movement and other network organizations he's part of. And so, welcome, Robert. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Hansi. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm glad that I have you here. We had the chance to meet us before already in a short community call. I'm really happy that you participated. And Robert will introduce himself in a minute, just to give you another overview for today. So what is in it for you? First of all, you will get an overview about the World Summit Movement. What is it? How do they work? And as well as other organizations which are related to it, where Robert is part of. And furthermore, we'll continue about and having conversation about what is the status quo for organizations and projects who want to connect the movement of movements. So where are we standing right now? What are the challenges? What have we learned so far? And what could be the next steps? So if you're interested in the topic of connecting your world community and the networks of networks, it's definitely an important talk for you. And last, before we come to Robert, from the technical side, we are streaming right now to Facebook. So you have the chance to use the comment section to get in touch with us. Just leave us your questions or comments. We are happy about your participation and, of course, also your likes. And please also share the stream to your audience and communities if it's interesting for you. And the call will later on be also uploaded on YouTube, so you can watch it all the time. Also there, if you see it later, we welcome you to comment and start the discussion with us there. There is also a link left down below for further upcoming events. So if you missed today or you're eager to get in contact with us, just check out the link and we're happy for your participation. So enough words for the intro. I'm really excited about getting to know more about Robert's background and his work. So welcome, Robert. And please feel free to introduce yourself. Looking forward to you.
Thank you, Hansi. It's great to be here. Hello, everyone. As mentioned, I'm working for WorldSummit, and I'm currently a coordinator for several transition platforms. My history comes from my childhood on. I was born and raised in a big family. I have 4 brothers and 5 sisters, and I was brought up with a lot of love. And in a big family, you already have to sort of take care of each other. You have to support each other. So from childhood, I already got used to living in a small community. And I guess that's sort of where my sense come from of taking care of each other. So recently, someone said that what I'm doing is being a transition engineer. So that's something that describes what our goal and vision is, what our task is on this planet. I like to philosophize. I like to go to the beach, watch the skies, and reflect on things. I think that's very important to keep balance. And I'm doing work and co-creating in other platforms, of course, such as United Earth. I co-founded that 5 years ago. To unify the unifiers, there is Mother Ark. That's a platform to connect all the different groups and organizations, and that's also a research center. And I'm a host I'm a host at the radio station, podcast station, Future Now Radio. So to summarize it, that's Robert Schram in a nutshell. I had a career of 30 years as a project coordinator in utility. So basically, that's where I gained my coordination skills. And I would love to tell more about the World Summit because it was a bit on a last note that Hansi invited me, and I'm happy he did. I sort of had to grab some information, some pieces together to tell a story, because I think it's important to tell stories and to make visible what is happening in the world. Where are we now, and where are we going? What are the options? So I would love to share it with you. Of course, it's not a complete story, but that's fine. You know, everybody has a piece of the puzzle of all the good work that we're doing. So, Hansi, if you're okay with it, I can share my screen, or do you want to add something?
Jump directly in. And again, if you have any questions while Robert is speaking, just write in the comments, and we're happy to come to them during or especially later on.
Great.
So you should be able to share now. Perfect.
Okay, let me know if that's all visible. Just to check if you can see my screen.
Perfect. I think we can even make it full screen, huh? Yes.
I think so, yeah. Great.
Perfect.
Okay, so before I start explaining what the World Summit and Co is all about, I just want to make clear that we are focused on positive solutions. So, having said that, we want to implement solutions, and if we want to implement them, it's wise to gain full understanding of our problems. And we want to ask the questions: where do they actually come from? What are the root causes? Because, like I said, the invitation was short. I tried to create a story, but that's all good. So I will share the most interesting parts with you to give a complete oversight. And there is no judgment or blaming here. It's merely observations that we experienced in the last 6-7 years, working as a transition coordinator and connecting to other platforms. So the World Summit, basically it says here what it is, a coordinating and designing network that is mobilizing and unifying all active groups and solutions so that we can quickly reach the necessary critical mass to enable humanity's phase shift towards a new global regenerative model. We also have Hack Humanity, but I will share a little bit about that later. That's an action network. So probably the most important aspect, here it says the same on this slide. We're connecting all key players: networks, movements, organizations, thought leaders, change makers, activists, and individuals, people who just want to create a better world. Most important aspect I feel to share of the World Summit is to make visible what the potential is of all active groups and organizations, and to show how these energies relate to each other. So everything is interrelated, and we want to sort of make visible how exactly they are connected and map them out. So we have an overview, of course, or towards holistic solutions. So we are now connecting groups at different levels: grassroots and meta level, and clustering groups, right? So what does that contain? Well, part of the plan is this: across the planet, we have now up till 500,000 to 1 million active groups. That's something that Paul Hawken introduced to us in 2007 with the Blessed Unrest. And that's a massive potential. And these are all groups that are working towards basically creating a better world. And they are really, they don't have a charismatic leader or something. They are all doing their best to create a solution in a certain sector or to resolve a certain problem. But this potential, it's very important to show this, that we already have so many groups being active, working on different projects, but all working towards the same goal eventually. And they all have beautiful ideals and unique approaches, and that's really great. The only thing that is missing is that they are not fully visible, organized, and connected yet. But that process is now going on, and that accelerated by what's happening with COVID-19. So we have to sort of take a look at the whole picture. It means that a lot of movements are working in silos, and in efficiency we can do a lot better. That's why I love also the initiative of co-create, because it's very important to connect in this phase. This is a profound phase in humanity's history, and I think what's happening now is really a beautiful thing, but also quite a challenging thing. So we have to also understand that the current political and economical systems we have are basically outdated. So there's no judgment here, it's just an observation that these two systems keep each other hostage, and it's very hard for people working within these systems to come up with real solutions that address the root causes. So that being said, where are we now? Mainstream, we have the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, and that's really a great start to start talking about the things, the goals we want to achieve within the current systems, that is. But it's a good start that it sort of gives energy to discuss about topics and goals, and it sort of brings people together to think about the solutions. So I don't want to mention them all, but it's probably good to highlight a few, because although, and I think most people have an understanding, they call it the Sustainable Development Goals, basically there is some question about which goals are really sustainable, because they are still active within the current models. So there are three goals that I would like to highlight just quickly, shortly. Goal 8, that's decent work and economic growth. That's sort of, there's a contradiction there, because there are a lot of people that have non-essential jobs. We have seen with COVID-19 that we only need 30% of people with essential jobs to keep the whole system going. So, and we also understand that infinitive economic growth is not possible on a finite planet, right? We use much more resources than the planet can carry. So that's really discussable. Goal 9, also industry, innovation and infrastructure. Well, we have seen globally the whole supply chain breaking down. So that's also something that we need to have a closer look on. And goal 17 is important. It's time to organize to achieve a shift towards a new regenerative model to meet everyone's basic needs. That's a big one. So meeting everyone's basic needs, that means food, water, shelter, healthcare, clothing, sanitation, safety, and so on. And we rephrased the Sustainable Development Goals to regenerative development goals, because we feel that that is sort of a better phrasing for now. The point is where we are now is, you can see here a wheel with 12 sectors, basically 13. But the 12 sectors, they sort of visualize how current society and our current models are built in silos. So you can see health and wellness, science and technology and energy, resource sharing and economics and trade. All these sectors are acting currently in silos. They are not really connected with each other, or not fully. So if you change something in one silo, it means or in one sector, sorry. If you change something in one sector, it means it affects other sectors. That's also important to understand this, what we have in the current situation. And then we have love and sexuality whirling all through these 12 sectors. So it's a very dynamic situation we have, although we have static models. And this is where sort of there is a friction. So to visualize the silos we have, poverty, disease, inequality, global warming and ecocide. And if we want to solve our global problems and crises, we have to look not only at individual problems, but how the problems are interrelated. And just focus on the underlying root causes. There are more silos: environment, energy, economics, government, healthcare. And in countries, it's clear, United Kingdom, USA, Korea, China, there are over 250 nations and countries, basically in silos. And we have experienced what that means, right? With COVID-19, the coronavirus spreading globally, and every country has come up with their own sort of plan to resolve the compromising situation that we're in. And there's not clearly a worldwide holistic solution for that. Happy to read today that a team has landed in Wuhan and to investigate where actually the virus is coming from. And then you take a look at the wild animal markets and the deforestation, and that is connected to the economy. So that's really a good development. A lot of silos that we are experiencing. World countries, societal sectors, companies, they work with sort of closed loops. They keep their intellectual properties and their patents and octroys and wisdom mostly to themselves. It's not open source. Some of them are. This is a very good development. We have religions and we have socioeconomic classes. So this has an effect. And what we are currently experiencing worldwide, and you can see here the 4 quadrants of an integral framework to visualize what is happening with the current systems we have that are rivalrous and are scarcity based, basically, and they demand infinite growth. You can see on the right bottom what effect these systems have on the other quadrants. And that means you can read them here, but we're talking about physical health, we're talking about obesity problems in the biology and behavior quadrant, we're talking about chemicals that we use that are not good for us, all kinds of negative side effects. And also in the left bottom relationships quadrant, we can see that there's distrust, there's separation and isolation. And we are competing against each other. And on the left top, we have the consciousness quadrant. And that shows that we now have scarcity, we are competing to survive. There's greed and profit motivation. Well, this is not really a healthy picture. This is a degenerative picture. The World Summit is focusing on solutions. And that means if we can together create a system, a model where we have feedback loops, then that would be a great step. That's part of the process. Here you can see how the sectors are interrelated to each other. If something happens in one sector, it gives a pulse to the other sectors and gets feedback what the results are. And then we can sort of monitor that quickly. We have the technology for it. I will share a little bit more about it later. But this is to give an overview that the feedback loops are missing and we can implement them. We are ready for it. And the positive side effects. This is really an amazing picture. If we shift towards a regenerative model, you can see how many positive side effects there are. Healthy nutrition, physical fitness. We will be better with sharing, our value developments, our self-esteem. There will be an abundance mindset. And on relationships, we will find a feminine masculine balance built on cooperation and gifting and trust. So I think this is really the great outlook that we have, and that's what we are shifting towards to. One of the models that we are using as the World Summit now is are the 3 pillars of activism from Joanna Macy. And in a nutshell, you can see the pillar on top. They're equally important, so it doesn't matter which pillar is where. But the pillar on top is holding actions pillar. Here is where all the protest groups are, and groups like Black Lives Matter, Standing Rock, Extinction Rebellion, Yellow Vests, and Fridays for Future, and a lot more. They are confronting symptoms. This is an important pillar. and they're doing great work. And the observation is that we have two other pillars that are equally important. So we have a shift in consciousness pillar, and that has to do with introducing new concepts, new ideas to create more awareness. So letting go of our conditioned beliefs and attachments. That's an important pillar. And the third pillar is creating new systems and models that actually work. So, and that address root causes. So we are not reforming, we are building new models. And the point is that up till now, most active groups and organizations have been in sort of siloed again in one of these pillars. Not all of them. Black Lives for Matter went through all the three pillars. But the thing is, and I think it's a good observation, that we understand that it's valuable to be active in one pillar, but these three pillars need to work in symbiosis with each other to create a sort of critical mass, to spark this paradigm shift. I think that's important to understand. As long as we keep on doing it in each pillar on its own, it most likely will not happen. If we can get the understanding and awareness and consciousness that we need each other as movement, as groups, as clustering platforms, then we can organize and use all this collective wisdom to create this new operating system. That could be anything. For now, we have an open access economy that we sort of think is the best option for now. That's about sharing resources and taking care of basic needs. But that's just one. There are so many knowledge and wisdom out there. We have to find out what the best options are. So what did we do as the World Summit? We put these layers on top of each other or beside each other, whatever you want to call it, and created a multi-layered approach to create the conditions for a new operating system. So here you can see the wheel of co-creation. By the way, that comes from Barbara Marx Hubbard. Maybe I forgot to mention it, but we call it the wheel of synergy. And we have the three pillars of activism by Joanna Mace, and then we have Hack Humanity. So it's important to see these layers, and also that we are putting a lens on governance and economics, because these models are outdated. This is the process from World Summit, facilitating the phase shift of humanity. On the left, you can see the siloed groups. We are sort of connecting them through the three pillars of activism, the platform, mapping them. Groups can enlist and they can make their project visible there. And then we sort of funnel them out into how would a new society would look like? How can we use our solutions best? And that leads to, again, a new model. So you can see above the face of the butterflies, from the caterpillar through the chrysalis, and then the butterfly coming out. And basically, we are now in this cocooning phase where everything seems to be falling apart, but actually beautiful things are already forming. Imaginary discs are already finding their place. And those are the clustering groups that I will show later. Also, perhaps interesting to show a little bit where we are coming from as humanity in history, our civilization. We started with tribes, right, on survival level, and slowly throughout the ages or thousands of years, we are evolving. You can see already where we sort of arrived now. We are at level 5, sort of, and that's a level of where we prevail success. There's achievement and competition, and we're already on this line, this thin line, that we are evolving towards human relations and a community on an ecological level. And what the World Summit specifically and other groups already are doing are looking at level 7 and 8, the synergy that can evolve from all the knowledge that we have, and the holistic solutions, the global vision. It's just to give you an idea that we are going from orange to green to yellow to turquoise. So it's nice to visualize it, and it's a very positive outlook also. So transition, Well, how do you do it, right? On the left, we have a static model, the model that we are quickly letting go during current developments in society. And you can see on the right brain side, that the creative energy that is there opening up, and somewhere in the middle we are now bridging it. How can we form this? And WorldSummit is referring to coordinating and designing platform mapping on movements. Also a short slide here to show that we are shifting from a degenerative model, which is rivalrous, to a generative one. This is sort of where we basically are now, and we are shifting to a regenerative one, where we are more taking a look at having access to resources and stewardship instead of ownership. And in the middle, where we are now, a generative model is taking a look at things like universal basic income or universal basic systems. We already started talking about it. And I think that's also a very positive outlook at the end, the regenerative model. So the vision, our measure of success is to change the model on a long-term basis, but if possible, on a short-term basis, to inspire others and to help them to do it for themselves. So that means that we are working on Mother Arc, that's a research center and a web platform designed to enable the co-creative construction of new systems blueprints. There's a website link available we can share later on. But mainly this is the platform where we want to connect individuals and groups. And I'm sure there are many other platforms already on a technological level this far that they can present something similar, which is fine, you know, we all have to make the connections. The wisdom of the crowd is important, collective consciousness. It's simple, a large group constantly make better decisions than a small group or an individual. So we're looking for an independent platform, decentralized, structured, and diverse. That's very important. And this is what's been happening the last 8-9 months. And we've been connecting to other clustering platforms, and Co-Create is one of them. You can see here, Communitas Zone Ecosystem, Humanity Rising, Campus Co-Evolve, Game B, Copiosis. There are many, many platforms that are basically all working in their own unique way towards the same goal. These clustering platforms, they are really connecting the dots. That's the social body that's forming now. These are the imaginary discs that are forming within the cocoon, where the butterfly can evolve from. And that's really inspiring to see. So every platform has already, the last 8-9 months, been connecting, opening up their membranes and starting researching and starting exploring how we can help each other in the process. Well, another question I like to share is, do we need to change the whole world? Most people think it's impossible, but that's not really the case. We only need 5 to 10% critical mass. And there's a quote here, and I took it from Co-Create, the source, so thank you guys for that. There's more than 20% of the population already belongs to a progressive subculture known as the cultural creatives. So all this 5 to 10% critical mass is already here. We already have it. We just have to connect it. So really, that's very exciting. And it's spread all over the world, and you can see it on this watercolor map. It doesn't matter actually what name or under what banner it happens. As long as we are open for it, it's all fine to me. I want to close with some technical aspects. I think that's also interesting. We're going from a current centralized situation to decentralized, and eventually to a distributed network using blockchain technology, holochain, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence. That's what we are also focusing on. It's an important part. It's one of the sectors, one of the 12 sectors, still also an important one. The other ones are equally important. We are working on GPS. We call it global problem-solving technology. So this is basically, that works like a mapping system, navigating systems like in your car. Only now we sort of have other criteria. We have put in human and nature values. And if we are looking for a solution for a problem, it will show us what the best solution is, the best way to get there. And it's always up to us, humanity, to decide which option or which solution we feel is the best thing to do. So this is something that's still very much in a conceptual form. It doesn't matter. There are probably groups at the moment currently working on similar projects that made more progress. Great, let's get together and share the information. A little bit about Hack Humanity. That is a sort of co-production. We are doing this with Envienta, open source everything. The World Summit, Envienta, and some other groups came together, and we said, well, let's create a platform that we can actually take action immediately, and that is Hack Humanity. And Envienta's strategy is to build around cosmo-localization. Basically, they want to distribute blueprints to solutions or from solutions that can be produced locally. So bring it actually where the solution is needed. And you can see that some time ago, Tesla was already starting to open up their patents. So other manufacturers could create or build their electric cars. Well, with Envienta, we want to do the same, but we want to do this with solutions that are already there, so we can manufacture them on the spot. If we need water somewhere, let's assemble a solution or manufacture a tool to create this water, to retrieve water out of air. It's all possible. Well, World Summit & Co., just shortly to mention what we are working on, a Synergy Hub network. We feel it's also, beside the digital platform we're building, it's important to be able to get together on a physical place. It's hard now with COVID-19, of course, but it will at some point give, or we will have room to be accessing these Synergy Hubs worldwide. So amazing teams can come together and share their knowledge and build on this. We also want to envision what an ideal world looks like and how we can get there, of course. Future Now Radio podcast station is there, and this is where we are inviting active visionaries, and we are exploring which concepts are already there, and we want to hear from other groups what their ideas are, so we can build this new regenerative model. We created with World Summit last year the Great Pause video series, which shows that the coronavirus, COVID-19, is already a test case, a proven case that we can do things differently very quickly. So that's one thing that you can check out. And we are also co-creating with Co-Creation Global. That's a global network, a media platform. And we have the 3 pillars of activism, as mentioned. And last but not least, the transition tactics. Those are the regenerative development goals. We have over 60. We just put 10 here on a row. So you can see these are the things we could actually do right now, like today or tomorrow. And those are things like a basic income as a stepping stone, perhaps. We're talking about a 20-hour work week. A lot of jobs will disappear also because of automation. So that is a shift that we can do right now. Create a mutual aid network, create safe communities, global citizenship and a world passport, introduce it, eliminate hunger, bring water to everyone, secure universal health care. You can see the RDG numbers behind them, so we can share them with you later. And we can stop the refugee crisis. But most importantly, we want to come to a model where we, as citizens, are able to make decisions in a dynamic model and not give, with a vote, give sort of our power away to a government that can rule for 4 years and sort of has this hostage situation with the economic goals. So that's basically where we are. This is how a regenerative development goal looks like. I'm coming to the end. This is an example of the universal basic income, where it shows within the 3 pillars what the effects are. And I'm coming pretty much to the end. So main focus, summarizing of the World Summit: unify humanity to create new systems of self-governance. The main focus of the Synergy platform is that we find out how to unify and align best, and how to step into the new paradigm best. And we want to manifest and live a new paradigm blueprint. I want to finish with a quote of one of our former delegates, Gaetan Robert. He passed away 2 years ago, sadly. But he said, we need to actuate ourselves. That means switch ourselves on right now. It's not about the World Summit, it's about us as sovereign individuals. And it's not about us, it's about the World Summit and other platforms. It's actually about all, because all is one, all of life is one. So we've got to actuate our oneness. And I will stop the presentation with sharing this picture, because if you look at Earth, you can see no borders, you can be in awe, and you really don't have to think about a lot of things, I think. That's my perception. Standing on the moon, looking at Earth, and you can see how beautiful and how fragile our planet is. Okay, and I will stop sharing my screen.
Wow, thank you, Robert, very much. Thank you for putting together this beautiful presentation. With a clear red line, and I really loved how you ended up with this very nice quote and the picture of the world. And it really gives a sense of how we are connected, and that it's really urgent right now to work together. And yeah, a lot of the part of the presentation were actually to show what is already there, how we are connected already. I really loved it. And for me, of course, is the question, what's next? So before coming into this discussion, to point this out again, I would like to ask you, where's the World Summit standing right now, and what are the next steps for you as organization?
Yeah. Well, where we are right now is that we use these models that were shown, like the RDGs, based on the SDGs, and the 12 sector wheel of society, and the 3 pillars of activism, to bring them together and to visualize what is happening. I think that's where we are right now. And I think with the videos that we really made a great step next year. Those are videos to create awareness. So I would invite everybody to watch them, but there is so much there. I mean, this was just, the presentation was just flower picking what all dynamics that are going on. But I think for the World Summit that we are, yeah, we want to go towards implementing solutions. So we have this transition tactics that we developed that we can implement, but also creating actually a synergy village or a synergy hub where teams, similar teams, also like co-create World Summit and other groups, can actually come together. This is basically where we are now. And yeah, we want to use technology for that, see what the options are. And there are already lots of groups that are working on alternative models with new technologies. And basically intensify the action network with Hack Humanity. So create hackathons and see how we can bring more solutions into a practical level. That's where we are now and where we want to go.
Thank you very much for summarizing it. Cool. And you mentioned also now on this answer and before during the presentation, and of course we know it's the co in the title of today, you are a part of many other organizations as well. Can you very shortly point out again, what do you see are the main differences between the organizations you're part of and you presented shortly?
Yeah. Well, connecting to other platforms. You mean the main differences between the projects
project
that I'm working on?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I would say the main differences are that they all are connected to a certain sector or aspects from a sector. So basically, we are taking a look at if we zoom out at the holistic picture, so what is happening within all these sectors and how they influence each other. But I think the projects that I'm working on, I have aspects or they have a role in one of the sectors because I like to zoom in and out. As a group, we also like to do it. It's a very good training to use this perspective, zoom in and out and circle around the possibilities we have. So I think they're all different, the projects, but they do carry a certain aspect of the whole, which we try to understand how they are interrelated, how they affect each other. So I would say that basically is the similarity and the difference between them, and which is fine, by the way. You can focus on one thing or multiple things, as long as you don't get lost in the woods, as long as you can oversee how they influence each other.
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate and like the part of pointing out the different sectors, because it's something where I really see myself with co-create in it, because it's also a topic what we referring very much to it, because there are a lot of silos, there are a lot of different backgrounds and micro groups, and it's important to connect those. And especially of the sectors of society. So I think basically we speak about civil society, government, and business. For co-create, we added then science, the basic sectors of society which are known in literature. And I formed out of this then the social backgrounds we are referring now with co-create to, because civil society is much more than just civil society. We have there the activism, we have art and culture, we have youth movement, and also sustainable business is much richer like that. And what do you think, where are you standing, or in which sectors are you reaching out right now with the World Summit and other organizations you are involved at?
Yeah. Well, basically every sector, but like shown at the presentation, we do focus a little bit on economy and trading and resource sharing, and also on governance or self-governance. So, and that means that there are groups working on new forms of self-governance that are much more dynamic than the systems we have now. There's a group from Tom Osher, he's working on horizontal governance, for instance. But I could mention maybe 5 or 6 other groups that are working on alternative self-governance models. So basically, those are the 3 sectors that we think are most interesting and have the most influence in the current systems, and also on everybody's life that affects us the most. But basically, we're interested in every sector because they're all equally important. Music and arts is very important also for well-being, and that connects to healthcare, and that connects to other sectors. So it's really so dynamic. But I think that's also very wonderful, that if we gain a little bit more understanding of these dynamics, then we can really, it's sort of well, I wouldn't call it a gamification, but we can play with it, right? And of course, it's very serious. I understand it. Our world problems are very serious, but I think it's also good to have sort of a playful element in it, so we can all thrive and we can all bring in our gifts. What is your passion? What is important for you? What makes you happy? What do you want to do? And I think that's basically what we are trying to focus on.
Yeah, I love that point very much, because I think, as I said, the problems are urgent and really hard, but therefore we don't have to make it harder for ourselves. So we have to raise our energy, raise our motivation, joy. We have to celebrate together, so we have energy for the everyday work we do on changing our society. And it can be joyful, it can be playful. There are enough examples around the world. they show it very much. And I think each time when people are coming together, it's a great chance to drive our energy up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. I wanted to say, I found it interesting listen to you speaking about the self-organization and the economy. So when I got it right from the presentation, you're really focusing about bringing the new society, the new solutions, beside of changing old ones. Or how do
Yes.
you see it?
Yeah. Well, it's, you can reform a system, but if you don't get to the actually root cause, you wind up fighting symptoms, right? Basically, you can experience the same thing now with the vaccinations for COVID-19. I'm not saying vaccinations are a bad thing. I don't want to go into that rabbit hole, but I think it's fine, but actually it's fighting symptoms. Go to the root cause and try to find out how this virus came to life. And then you can see that we sort of have reached the end of the bandwidth we have on this planet. And it's easier for viruses to spread. So I would say that is important to understand. Okay, maybe you can rephrase the question again for me. Is that okay?
Yes, and probably to share, I would like to share something, a point of view, and maybe you can then interact with this, because I really like the approach that we need everybody. We need all the possibilities for change we have all together. And therefore, for me personally and for Co-Create, it's very important to also take both approaches of creating the new one, but also changing the old one as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I know something similar, like these 3 pillars you mentioned. I really like it. But what I knew, there was one point called entrepreneurship. So there are entrepreneurs, but changing existing systems from within,
Yeah.
and to really be fully holistic and take everything we can for change. For me, it's very important to create a new system, but as way as changing this existing system from within.
Yeah.
I think one problem and why we really don't want to get stuck is just waiting for the old system that it change itself, because this will not happen. But in the whole process of change, we also need those who are in the systems right now and who change
Yeah.
within. And therefore, for the sectors, for me, it's very important to not only having goals and solutions for the sectors of government and business, but also to implement and introduce people from these sectors in the changing process already. Because I don't know, and this was also part of my question before, how you spread out from the people. Because in past networks, I'm coming from a civil society and activist side, and I see these barriers in our silos, in our mindset, in our contexts, that we don't reach out enough to business and sustainable business and government and municipalities. And I think this is something where we really have to push ourselves to reach out for those as well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on those aspects. Like I started, it's hard to reform a system, but it's not impossible. That's why we came up with the transition tactics mainly. So we could sort of create something new, or already make some small changes that benefit a lot of people within the current system as transition tools. We're not thinking or saying that the economy or capitalism or the governments are all bad and that they're all, failing. We understand that they have been dominant for the last 50 to 100 years, and we have to realize that they're now outdated. But we do need, I want to emphasize, Hansi, we need each other. We need those people that are active as politicians within governments, because there are a lot of good politicians that have very good ideas, but their hands are tied within the current systems. They can only do so much. We need the United Nations with the Sustainable Development Goals. We cannot rule out anybody, because then we would create another dogma, right? And dogmas is what we've been experienced for the last 1,000 years. So let us sort of rise above that and be aware of it, that let's not create another dogmatic situation. Let's be open, transparent, and include everyone. So current business is welcome to bring in solutions and to help the transition.
Thank you. And I really want to underline this part you said with the dogmas, because we had come from a past with a lot of dogmas, and we have to be aware that also we as people who are in part of change and who are quite aware, we're building new dogmas for ourselves. So we have always to be self-critical with our own dogmas, which are new as well, because we are not free of building walls and borders. And this is something where I think we have to challenge ourselves as well to go over these things. One example, you mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations. I really like the work they have done, the approach, the goals. We implemented it as well as co-create. And still, I know the critic discussion around that. I share that there are some points in the UN and the history and the goals are not perfect, but still, and this is something what I really want to spread with co-create, is a mindset of having both. Like, yeah, there are mistakes and it can be better, but still we work with it. And this is something very important. So I'm really asking you, if you're watching, to be open for also solutions. They might not be perfect yet, but they are a step in the right direction. And from this on, we can build momentum and drive better ways.
Yeah. No, totally. You emphasized what I was talking about. So yes, surely include the Sustainable Development Goals and include these parties. It's a starting point, and it has a positive note. People want to create a better world, and this is where a lot of energy is bundled. We are looking for ways to release these energies, right? So that's really massive.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah, dogma as well. That's a tricky subject, you know. Thoughts. Well, someone told me thoughts are like living creatures, right? They are born in your mind. You feed them to make them come alive, and then at some point they become too much, or they grow over your head, or they get too old, and then they have to die. Thoughts can die also, but dogmas are created instantly when we accept or we attach to a certain opinion or idea. So once we attach to it, we already are starting to create this invisible silo. Because once you attach to an idea, then you sort of subconsciously rule out other options. And if you focus on that part too much, that's a very delicate process, to be aware of this membrane and constantly, okay, let's stay open enough. It's an idea, I like it, but there are a lot of other great ideas that are also important.
Thank you. I really like this this example. It really shows, like you said, this invisible membrane. So it's something hidden, and it can look like for us that we are in change and we are super aware and we bring the new future, and still we have old things in ourselves, or things which are not reflected, like black parts in ourselves. Yeah, I think that's really important to realize and accept, because we are still humans, and we all have our black parts which we can grow on.
Yeah, it's very important. Sorry.
No problem. And I think I just want to make this connection, because I think this is also one important part to the question, how we connect the movement of movements now. What is spreading out, not spreading, what is between us right now, and how we can improve in this, because there are things, there are different egos, different mindsets, where we really have to work hard to bring those together. And with this thought, I would like to ask you, what is your experience out of the last years of connecting the network of networks, the movement of movements? What have you seen? what do you think where all the organization are standing, and what do we need to make the next step?
Yeah. Well, of course, connecting all the groups and movements can be challenging, but it's possible. Let me start with that. So, but that's why we think at World Summit and other groups, hopefully also, that visualizing what we already have and what the possibilities are, how the energies move, and having understanding of that, that's a big first step. And of course, there are many groups and platforms that sort of are grown to their project. And I think I picked up from you guys, your co-create team, that you found, you summarized a couple of issues that we are dealing with, right? That we experience with connecting groups. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about it more later. I think those were great points that you made. I think I have a note here. You puzzled out the most issues that they are, the focus on the bigger goal is missing with partners often. I think you mentioned most groups have the same level of resources. They're not able to support each other. And there are a couple of other aspects that sort of are the barriers. But I see them as illusionary barriers. We often create illusionary barriers in our minds because we are attached to what we are doing. And once we have understanding how important it is to stay semi-open, to keep our membranes open enough, then we can lower these barriers. And I think that's an important step. And our experience, Hansi, is that some groups can do this, and some people, some have really, they're not ready yet. They're not fully on that level yet, or they need to experience their own project. I really think every phase of every project is important, especially the projects that fail. This is not a business pep talk, because what I've learned from the things that didn't work, I learned so much from it that I can really, use this experience and information for the better. And so I'm happy with those experiences, but it can be challenging to connect with other groups. Often there is a good intention from the start, and everybody is positive and energetic, but after a while it sort of fizzles out, and most groups want to see if they can sort of their own project can spin, how do you regain the profits of it or the fruits of it. It depends. Yeah, it depends. So, but in overall, I think groups now, especially since the last 8-9 months, with the current situation, this process is speeding up. Groups have opened up the membranes at a high speed. They are connecting, and that's really a momentum that we are in now. And that's why I think what you guys are doing is special and great too, and important.
Thank you for the appreciation. Cool. And what do you think will be the next steps, or what do we need to drive this process even further of connecting the movements?
Yeah, I think, like I said, we don't need to change the whole world. We have the critical mass that's already there. If a group from between 5 to 10% gives a direction towards a change, a paradigm shift, then the rest will follow. So I think basically finding or creating this digital platform to connect, and that's just what your team is also working on. That's what's still missing. I haven't seen this global network, digital network there yet. And also physical places like synergy hubs. I think there are maybe 10 or 15 different hubs already active, but those are not fully connected yet. There is, of course, there are some networks that are connected, but they are focusing on like eco-villages or on another aspect. But like as transition engineers, I sort of feel that this platform is still missing. But I think that's okay too, because this is what's now evolving. That's the reason why we are now talking to each other, right? So
yeah, that's true.
And keep on talking. Keep your lenses open. Be open for new ideas and concepts. And again, realize that it really doesn't matter under which banner or name or group we do it. Really, it's not important, for me at least. Try to be open enough so we can actually make this next step together.
Thank you for these wise words. I would like to take it and grow on it on this, because I'm recently and again we have this discussion about white label approach and what does branding do with the process. Like you said, we have different names, and some people are very connected to their solution, to their brand, to their past, and I think that's just human. But I think this is one of the most urgent things we have to come over to resolve and to deeper connect to each other. So very early on creating co-create, people were coming up to me and said it would be better to choose a white label solution, because otherwise I would build another brand. For co-create, we decided to still build a brand, because I think in today's social media world, you really need a face, an image to connect on, even if it's just for the first step. And this is something very important for co-create, that it's built in the DNA, that it will change. So we have something we will implement it in as a function in the upcoming chapters, decision tree. So we'll make decisions as community, and those decisions will be open or closed for a specific time. So it's very clear that for now we have the label co-create, but we know at the end of 2021 we will be grown to extent where it's necessary to change the name again. So it's implemented in DNA that we will change, so people can identify better with each other.
Yeah.
And probably this decision will be closed for a while, because you cannot change all the time. So we're going step for step. And there are things which can be changed very fast on a rapid prototype way, and other things on a maybe the core values or the branding will be better to change over time, for time to time. But I think this being open is very, very important. And I think it's really a quite big attachment from the human side. This is something which is building a border often, and I'm really looking forward to these bridging moments between organizations. And I think one really big solution, therefore, is to break down our projects in different parts. Because what I see is the different projects do really great work on specific parts of what an ecosystem, a network really needs. But none of them can resolve all the things which are needed in the total field.
Yeah.
So and to really point this out, we as co-creator, we are not developing a platform right now. We decided to not do it because there are so many projects who do develop a platform right now. And I think much more important is to connect them to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
We're not focusing on a hub right now, because we know there are places already or people working on these places. But what we have focused on from the beginning on is the model of how to connect in a strategic way, because we have seen a lot of networks which, like you said, they come together, they are high in motivation, but over time it's dissolving because each of them are in their own projects as well. And we need better processes in how to work together. And I wouldn't speak about the kind of process in a group, because there is great knowledge of art of hosting, of nonviolent communication, of sociocracy and so on, but really like the meta ecosystem. This is something what is really important for us as co-create. And parts of the system I've seen in your presentation as well, and that was really something was talking to me, especially this process of creating solutions. Because you also showed you have these different social bubbles or sectors, and you bring those together, and you see events where they create the best solutions, and these solutions can be spread out again. And of course, all the process needs mapping to be very specific on who is collaborating when. And that's really, really similar to the co-creating process we suggest with co-create. So I think speaking about this detail is connecting us. And if you are another, so there are things which are connecting us, doing very similar, and there are other parts which we are supporting each other in the way that somebody's focusing on or not. So we don't have a platform, we don't aim to build a platform, but another organization can do this. We can provide a very good system model, which other people might not focus on as well. Or other organizations are focusing more on the awareness part. And I think it's very important to bring together these pieces, and then it's also easier for organizations to grow together because each of them have something where they can bring in and show up their expertise.
Yeah, totally. That's why well, that's your role. So that's a specific role, and I'm really happy to hear that you are willing to take that part. And that's also equally important. That's sort of maybe I can actually say we sort of already shifted towards these 3 pillars of activism because it's a neutral platform. It doesn't really has a flag or a label, and everybody has a place, a unique, important place in each of these sectors. So if you want to protest, that's fine. Do what you love. But still, as we can find these connections, and I guess there are more that we don't know of beside the 3 pillars or other models. But I think creating a neutral model or platform is important for sure. So good job.
Thank you. And we'll see where we're growing to. And yeah, I'm just thinking about, I asked this question already, but more specifically, what do you think we need, or what could be concrete next steps as, let's say, World Summit and Co-Create, and there's this seed finance ecosystem. We have the Open World Alliance. What do you think would be very next concrete steps to grow to more closely together?
Yeah. Well, it would be great. We still live in the monetary system, so and that's something we have to deal with. But what we experienced with the World Summit, I mean, one of the co-founders, Troy Wiley, was one of the founders, but also one of the funders. So the main funder, and he sponsored the project for almost over 2 years. But actually, we were expecting to make a connection. So when you grow as a movement, you sort of expect, a support of a second or a bigger philanthropist or funding platform, so you can accelerate. And that sort of didn't happen because we were in another situation 2 years ago. I think that now changed a lot. I think there are a lot of people, financial institutions and wealthy people that want to create a better world and more open to supporting the change makers. So not to narrow this down to this certain group, but this is a serious group, a group of professional and really on a high level thinkers, system thinkers that are coming together. So I think it would be great if there is, for those people, there is some support. Most have been struggling beside their jobs, right, to survive, pay the bills, and still have to find energy to do what they actually love. But I think it's sort of a difficult part to materialize, I guess. But that would be a good step to create basic needs for this group that can create the basic needs for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts on a financial level, and on other levels.
What would you imagine what happens or should happen if we have the financial resources we need?
Well, then you can free up. You can form a team. We already are forming a team, but I think you can do it more efficiently and specifically. And you can use technology also, but you need designers for that probably, most likely, or coders or programmers, and they have to eat too. So I would then sort of put the focus on the technological part. Also, what I shared in the presentations a bit is GPS, global problem solving. We can create tools that are very helpful. It could be an app, it could be a website platform. I think Colin Turner from Free World Charter, he is now creating a platform called ShareBay where people can share their resources instead of buying them. I think, and he is struggling financially, and this guy is working hard for over the last 10 years as I know him. He deserves support, at the least, some support, to not only maybe on a personal level, but also to give more momentum to these kinds of alternative platforms. So I think that can be a good next step, a logical next step, I think.
And may I ask, you mentioned already, I don't know if it was from World Summit or one of the related organizations you're working with, you're planning or you're aiming to build a platform as well. How far are you in this process? What are the next steps, or when do you want to release something?
Yeah, well, we have some platforms online. They're called Origin, and that's a platform that's built by Bruce Schumann. And Bruce is a great guy, and he loves to design platforms. You can already enlist there. You can register your project there. But it's sort of, Bruce is a bit on the edge of old school and, going to new technology with blockchain technology and holochain. So I think we can, what Bruce's work is so important, but he can use support and help also to build on that platform. So we have some basic functionalities, but I think for now it's too basic. We need to expand on it, and that's the next step that I think we have to make.
Okay. So you have something running which works for you yet good enough, but for the next step, you think there is either a better platform or the better platforms.
Yes. Yeah. It's we like to use the phrase "good enough for now, safe enough to try." So that's what we've been doing, but always keeping in mind that we can improve a lot. Yeah.
And I don't know if you are actually working on the next step of platform already. Are you, or kind of preparation phase, or?
Yeah. Well, we have the Model Arc project, which is a platform to connect change makers and to distribute blueprints. But forming a team without funding, it's difficult. Forming a team, we can do a lot online. We have looked into other options where you don't need coding. Yeah? It's a no-code movement that's coming up, but some of it's not easy for coordinators to sort of also take care of this technological part. It's just not an expertise, and we need more people, I think, within the team to explore and to contribute to creating this technological platform. So Model Arc is one of them. Bruce is working on aspects, and there are a few others. Matthew Dahl with Koyo, and he also had to sort of park his, because of the situation with COVID, he had to park his project. So I think the potential is there, the knowledge is there, the wisdom is there, the goodwill is there. Making these connections so that we can sort of do it properly, that's the next step. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And now it comes a recommendation or a wish. It sounds maybe strange, but it's something I'm speaking out more and more when I hear from somebody, I want to develop a platform, and I always say, please stop, don't do it. Because I really deeply believe there are so many platforms out there already. There are so many teams who search for funding for people to help to develop, or even users if they have already existing platforms and they don't get enough users because they spread out over existing platforms already. And for me, it's really like we need this next step of connecting existing platforms, make them visible, maybe merge some of them which have not enough resources, and see where do we have specific functions already and what is still missing. And therefore, I would like to shortly share my screen as well to show more specifically what the co-create approach is. And I would like to have your feedback to it, because I think you have seen it already. So we have here, you can see it now, I guess.
Yeah.
We have here the co-create ecosystem model. So for those of you which you haven't seen it at all yet, you can look it up at our website. For all of them who have seen it already, it's always nice to hear it again and again, self for myself. And what I really want to point out here is because, and I want to make the connections to what you have shown, because you have shown the process of finding best solutions. I spoke about this before for co-create, which is not here, but what I'm speaking about here is in the structure. Because you spoke already, we have the silos, different silos of regions, of social background, of topics. And I think we have to acknowledge these silos to be then able to connect those. And what we were now speaking about is for us in the point of infrastructure, which is very necessary to strengthen the change makers in the sector of topics. So we have the topics who providing resources, knowledge, and solutions on an everyday base. And those change makers need the infrastructure. And we were now heavily speaking about the IT part, but also about the funding part. And what I also see very important is the facilitation part. So we have community managers and process guidance for the process of connection, co-creation. We have the knowledge database for the solutions and communication. In question mark, there's hidden things like you spoke about the places and events to come together. And I think, and this is what co-create will do, and this is something what I haven't seen so specifically yet. That's the reason why I've developed this model and created co-create, is to focus on connecting the infrastructure. And again, here the approach is of not building an own platform or not developing an own facilitation approach, but connecting the solutions which are already there. And on the IT part, and you can imagine from your side, it's like the process you mentioned, it's bringing about different experts and informations to the specific sectors together to co-create better solutions. And in the IT part, I'm sure I know a lot of different platforms which I probably have used or tried, which have been developed and maybe stopped again. Some groups which are developing right now, and so many platforms out there we don't know because there are just so many. And for co-create, the solution is to connect them in one digital ecosystem so they are better able to reach. And then very important, make the interconnections, because that's something you draw very nicely at your graphic with the interconnections. It's missing here. Of course, it's not so static, but it's so important that if we say we need better IT, to reach that, we need finance. Then, of course, we need the finance things. And to create better IT parts, we also need, we can co-create for IT, we need better facilitation. And to reach out for these funds, we need good communication. So there are so many things we need at the same time that for us it was just the very clear to see that we have to find an ecosystem approach. And this is what I was speaking about in the first network talk last Thursday, the shift from network thinking to ecosystem thinking. And this is something what I'm really looking forward to get in contact with all of you networks and organizations and developers of this infrastructure to really connect those, because I think you have collected so many organizations in the projects or started to develop already some of them, and I'm really looking forward to connect them. We will start in February to do so, to bring those together. And yeah, if you're happy to share, I would really appreciate if you would share your thoughts on the model, and I would like to share it like that so we can see us and the model as well. Maybe you have some out of your experience or your own needs. What do you see what we need for deeper connection between the movements? What do you think about this model? What you see helpful? What is still missing for you?
Yeah, no, I totally love this model. So we're very much aligned, I think. It makes totally sense what you're showing, and I really like how you also make visible how the process is working, but also the levels from neighborhood to global level. It's very important to visualize this, how these layers are connected, of course. We know it, but it's not easy to put that in a very clear graphic, and it takes a lot of work. As mentioned before, Hansi, we know with the Sustainable Development Goals that's a start, right? So that's the thing I would mention, that there might be perhaps other options available for the next phase, but you already know this. So overall, I'm really yeah, pleasant surprised with the setup, and totally aligned. And also, I have now more understanding which role you want to play. You don't want to build a platform, you want to create a model or hold the space for it. That's really very important too. So that's great work, actually.
Thank you for the positive feedback. And thank you for pointing it out again. And nice that you say you understand the role more clearly, because often when I hear somebody who's doing network, I hear that they are try to do everything at the same time. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes it's limiting because we are limited by resources. So to get this clear for you, everybody seeing this video, it's really what we want to focus on is um, or what we're doing is we develop this model as a approach, as a basic, as an invitation to participate in a process. That's the reason why we launched the campaign, the Global Co-Creation Challenge, because not we cannot build this ecosystem. We not even cannot connect it by our own. Everything is related to the actions we take together as those people and organizations who want to form this movement of movements. And what we really want to do is speak out the invitation and guide and facilitate hosting and holding the space so this process really can take place. Because I know there are many networks out there did already a great job in collecting or start to develop platforms or focusing on the vision part or the consciousness. But what we really want to do is make the next step. Like you said, last year, a lot of things happened already by movements, organizations are coming together. It's really great to hear that. I personally had a pause in 2020, like you mentioned before, other people as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, for us, it's really about accelerating this process of connecting. And I know I have or I had a lot of conversation with people asking if we really need this, because they believe so deeply in the process of emerging systems and that things are coming by their own. And I also think that things are coming by their own, but we really have to question ourselves if it's good enough and fast enough in the urgency we see nowadays in our life. We have it with creating solutions during Corona and COVID. We know already that topics of economic, ecological crisis is very, very big. And through Corona, there will be even more urgent problems regarding the economic system. So we really need fast solutions. We really have to connect this movement of movements, these solutions. And yeah, therefore, we hope through inviting to a strategic process, we can support it. And we hope that as many organizations as possible are open for that. Because, as we said before, of course, there are things who are creating borders. There's always the question about the image, the persons, and that we don't want to get loose of things we have created. But I think this ecosystem approach as a dynamic organization, as an evolutionary organization, is a good, as I said before, it's good enough for now and safe enough for try. So we really hope to reach people and organizations who are open for trying this. And yeah, let's stop sharing here. Let's come back to us. And yeah, that's our call. That's my invitation as person, as founder of Co-Create. I really hope to be able to connect in this way. And I think it's a good chance to close this conversation slowly. Before just closing it, I would like to ask you, Robert, if there is anything else you would like to share, especially if you have still thoughts about what could be necessary for Co-Create to be successful with this approach. And as I asked already before, what we need as humanity in general to grow together.
Yeah. Well, we talked about, thanks, Hansi, for summarizing. We talked about it a little bit in the conversation, being flexible enough, stay open enough, and sort of be organic enough to adapt. I think that's also a very important aspect to be aware of or conscious of, that for every different phase, we need a different approach. So if we are able to adapt also as change makers, it doesn't mean that much. At some point, we also have to adapt and see how the current situation evolves and how we can get the best out of it together. So I think that's my closing statement for the conversation. And I really enjoyed the talk. I think it's very important that we keep the communication lines open, and especially that we make visible what we are doing, because a lot of people don't even know and don't realize that so many people, millions of people, are working on this together, are co-creating on this together. And I think that is also an important aspect. And it gives hope. It gives people something to look forward towards. And like Charles Eisenstein mentioned, so we eventually can all create the more beautiful worlds we know in our hearts is possible. And I will finish with that.
Thank you, Robert. Very nice quote. I'm looking still forward to invite him for a conversation regarding the vision in good life. And I think it's very important. So we spoke quite a lot about the systemic approaches today, but I think it's very important, the one side and the emotional. So thank you for closing with this. Thank you for joining in this conversation. I'm very happy to had the chance to get to know your work and the WorldSummit Movement's work. And yeah, for all of you watching this video right now or later on, thank you for watching. Please give us a thumb up and share it with your friends and communities so we can reach out and we can build together on this vision of uniting the world community. We hope you join in for a next conversation. You will find the link to further events down below. So each Thursday, we have the network talks like we had today. Each Saturday, there are the community calls where we have a Zoom call to be able to exchange. You will have a possibility to have question and answer session and show up and share from your side as well. And each Tuesday, there are the expert talks where we focus on a specific topic of the chapter. And right now, we are at the Visioning Good Life Fall. So, like we said before, we have the systemic thing and other side, the visioning part. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Robert, very much for joining in. And looking forward to co-create a good life fall with you.
Thanks, Hansi.
Bye.
Bye-bye.